Welcome. It's your favorite writing teacher again, Dr. Andy Johnson, with a few writing tips. And I'm bringing you right to the paper, no PowerPoint presentation. You don't have to look at my bulbous, bald head on the screen. A couple of writing tips for you for a literature review of any kind, whether you work on a thesis, a dissertation, a journal article, or just a good professional paper. Start with a specific question. I've said this over and over again, but the more specific your question, the easier everything is, because you're reading to find specific information. So make sure that question is specific and precise. It guides your search, it guides your reading, it makes everything so much easier. It is a review of the literature, not a review of a study. All right, not a review of the book. What does the literature say about your question? And a minimum of 10 to 15 sources, articles, books, whatnot, a minimum, because it's a review of the literature. You want a wide view. Let the literature speak through you. It's not you speaking through the literature. You should disappear. Well, what about voice, you say? You have no voice. You should not appear in the literature review. We don't care what you think. It is the literature that is reviewing. So yes, it is a review of the literature, point number 4, not a review of what you think. Yes, we all have preconceived ideas. Absolutely. But trying to find literature that supports your preconceived ideas takes longer and results in a mess. Start with the question. A good literature review guides you. Point number 5 here. One good article leads to another. It's like being a detective. You're reading an article and you see something interesting, a point that's cited, you go to the reference list and you get more articles. This is the joy of the reference list. You see what's cited and it leads you to other articles, and that's an easy way to get lots of articles and a good view on what you're looking at. It's a review of the literature, not a review of a panel or a famous person. Because someone's famous in the field doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean they're research-based, doesn't mean the panel, no matter how famous, did an apt review of the literature. Don't abdicate your responsibility. Always look for the literature. I don't care what a panel or a group or a famous thing. It is your literature review. And then enter a teaching explaining mode, and I'm going to show you some examples here, but assume your audience knows nothing. Enter a teaching mode just to get on the same page. Now, I was writing a chapter, and a chapter is a little different than a literature review, and I've written for a while, but I still do a literature review. Now, I'm talking about phonics instruction here, and synthetic phonics is pretty well known, but I'm still explaining it. Instruction is the traditional skills-based approach, all right, part to whole. Analytic phonics is also pretty well known. You analyze sounds within the words that students encounter, absolutely. Now, large unit phonics is not as well known. So I am citing the bejesus out of this, pardon my salty language, because no one cares what I think, no one believes me. So I'm explaining it. And every declarative sentence has a citation. Large unit phonics is based on the brain's natural inclination to notice patterns, cited. When we look at words on the page, we tend to notice letter patterns more so than words, cited. Instead of using individual letters, proficient readers tend to use internalized letter patterns, cited. You get the idea. Large unit phonics. To utilize large unit phonics as a word identification strategy, students are taught to look for familiar letter patterns, cited. Boom, boom, boom. That is a review of the literature. No declarative statements without citations. And it's okay, a citation is usually followed by an explanation by you explaining stuff. That's good. The more new or controversial the material, the better cited it should be. Now, this is a chapter I wrote on dyslexia, and I did a tremendous amount of research and looked at a tremendous number of articles, but I know this is controversial, so I cited as many sources as I can. There's no reliable evidence to show that the brain of students with severe reading disability are quality different from the brains of other students. Cite, because people can think I'm just a crazy guy. The brain imaging research that purports to demonstrate dysfunction or abnormalities is fraught with methodological concerns. All these people examined it and thought this was the case. The concerns are usually related to small set. You get the idea. And I'm explaining here. I cited there, and I'm explaining here what these people said. All right. What is usually not included in brain imaging studies is that many differences can be explained by differences, and I'm cited there. You get the idea. More phonics is not the answer, and again, citing. Phonics can lead to increased scores, citing. Little transfer of these skills related to authentic reading conditions, citing. Little evidence to demonstrate that this kind of instruction has long-term effect, cited. Phonics instruction is important. It should occur within a meaningful context to the greatest extent possible. Cited. And one other tip that I forgot to include on here, I'm going to write it right here. Oh, by the way, this is an example of the bone pile. In preparing this, I was going to talk about the National Reading Panel, and I said, nah, I don't really want to get into that. So I put 8-point font, and I put it down the bottom because I thought, well, maybe no, that's the bone pile. If you have an idea that doesn't fit and you're not really ready to throw it away, just cut it, put it at the very bottom. You can always go back and get it. And I'm going to even add point number 9. And you can see me writing here. I never thought about using actual paper. Point number 9, use handbooks of research. Handbooks of research in writing, handbooks of research in reading, handbooks. And these are pretty expensive. They cost $150, $200, but they're usually in a college library. And it's a compendium of the research in a particular article. And I don't have any pictures of it, and I'll get that for the next video. But let's take a look at my tips again. Start with a specific question. It makes everything that follows much easier. It's a review of the literature, not a review of one study. It's not a review of the study. It's not a review of the book. Let the literature speak through you. You're not speaking through the literature. Let the literature speak. It's a review of the literature, not a review of what you think. We don't care what you think. Well, we do, but not in a literature review. You have no voice. No, it's the literature speaking. One good article leads to others. You're detectives. You look at the citations, and this is what gets, I know, a literature review exciting, but it is exciting because you're getting new knowledge and you're understanding. You're a detective looking at citations and clues. A review of the literature, not a review of a famous person. There's a lot of clowns out there who are famous, who are doing the dog and pony show, who are out there simply to make money. And once you make a lot of money, you're kind of locked into a particular point of view, and you become blind to other ideas. So you should always do not abdicate your responsibility for reviewing the literature. And I say as professionals, as professors as well, we must not abdicate our responsibility and say, well, this panel, this group says this, therefore. Teacher education, we tend to do that a lot instead of using our responsibility. Anyway, you're entering a teaching mode, you're explaining stuff that's well known. Okay, you can still explain it. You don't have to cite it. Synthetic and analytic phonics are well known, but I still assume my audience knows nothing. Large unit phonics, this is rather new. It's been out there a while, but most people have not put this term to it, so I'm explaining it and I'm citing the heck out of it. Same with dyslexia. This is it's a controversial topic. It's not well understood. The International Dyslexia Association tends to put out more disinformation than information. They're locked into a particular point of view. So I am citing with lots and lots and lots of studies. In a literature review, you cannot have too many citations. All right? Just some tips for you for writing a literature review.